Welcome back to the crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now we are seeing a new warning signal flash on this Bitcoin price chart as the price just invalidated this previous breakout, but is also bouncing from this key support in the short term as one of the largest Bitcoin whales in the world is buying more Bitcoin, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is continuing to play out this short-term bearish divergence, while the price of XRP is also still rejecting from major resistance, but now starting to run into key support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a quick look at some Bitcoin news today, because a matter of hours ago, we saw Michael Saylor, as always, announce that Strategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, is continuing to buy more Bitcoin. And this latest purchase that they did was almost 7,400 Bitcoin, around 7,390 Bitcoin for over 760 million US dollars. And they just bought that massive amount of Bitcoin at an average price of around 103,500 per Bitcoin. And overall, in case you're wondering, Strategy currently now holds over 576,000 Bitcoin that they acquired for over 40 billion US dollars, which is currently worth more than just that 40 billion. And so this was potentially one of the reasons as to why we saw a bit of volatility in the short term. Obviously, we saw some spikes towards the upside just recently, followed by some scandal candles here as always. But long term, this is bullish for the price of Bitcoin, not necessarily immediately for the price of Bitcoin, because typically these large purchases here are done over the counter, OTC. And what that means is basically the transaction happens off exchange order book, so it doesn't immediately impact the price of Bitcoin. So for example, it's like if I sent you USD and you sent me Bitcoin into my Bitcoin wallet, or vice versa. It's basically a transaction like that does not really happen traditionally on an exchange. But even though that does not necessarily immediately impact the price of Bitcoin, it can impact the price of Bitcoin over the longer term as Strategy continues to buy more and more Bitcoin, because this can lead to a supply squeeze where there's not enough Bitcoin to go around. Because obviously, if you're into Bitcoin, you'll know that Bitcoin has a max supply limit, a total limit of 21 million Bitcoin that can ever exist. But already out of that 21 million, first of all, there's still around a couple million left to be mined. And then there's estimated a few million that have been lost forever. And of course, there's a lot of Bitcoin holders out there that are just not selling anytime soon. And also add in the fact that a lot of Bitcoin is being held by the Bitcoin ETFs, like the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. In reality, there's only a few million Bitcoin that are relatively liquid that can actually be bought and sold. And so when you consider the fact that there's probably only a few million Bitcoin relatively liquid in the supply of Bitcoin here, of course, when we're talking about over 500,000 Bitcoin held by just one company, this is a very large portion of the supply of Bitcoin. And now this is just speculation, but let's just say if this accumulation continues over the coming months and years for Strategy and other companies like Strategy, ultimately this means less and less Bitcoin will go around, which means buyers like this that are wanting to buy more and more Bitcoin will have to bid for higher prices if there's no one willing to sell anymore at the current Bitcoin prices, because there's basically no Bitcoin left to buy. And so if you're new to all of this, that's basically how the price of Bitcoin actually works. It's simply just determined by buyers and sellers. And so obviously if there's a lot of buyers like this accumulating large amounts of Bitcoin, and if there's less and less Bitcoin being sold at these prices due to the fact that there's less supply to go around, ultimately over the longer term, this will force the price of Bitcoin towards the upside in a supply squeeze. And so just keep that in mind. Fundamentally speaking, I'm extremely bullish on the price of Bitcoin when we're talking about the super long term. But of course, from time to time, we can see pullbacks and things like that in the short term. But if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin price charts today on the 4-day time frame, technically the super trend indicator is still in the green, indicating a larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at this weekly time frame, right now we're pretty much just now invalidating this previous bearish divergence, with now a new higher high confirmed finally in the weekly candle closes. In fact, we've just now confirmed the highest weekly candle close in the price of Bitcoin in history. And so now that we have a new higher high in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes on the weekly time frame, this means in order to have a bearish divergence here, we have to reconfirm a new bearish divergence with this new higher high in the price and lower highs in the weekly RSI, which is still currently forming. And so we still have to be aware of that potential risk in the coming weeks or months here if we continue a bit more of a pump, maybe into new all-time highs highs, there's still the possibility we could ultimately form another bearish divergence. So keep that in mind. But at least for now, this bearish divergence is not currently active anymore. We've just broken out here. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day time frame, obviously we have now further confirmed the bullish crossover here in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. And so it's simply based on this chart right here. And as I've been saying every day for over a month now on the channel, this is pointing in the bullish direction. We're finally regaining bullish momentum. And if we're looking at the last couple of times that we've seen this signal confirm, we have seen a lot more bullish price action play out in the next few weeks and months here for the price of Bitcoin. And if we're taking a quick look at the 3-day time frame, right now we're still finding resistance at approximately 106,000, and I would also expect some resistance at around 108 to 109,000, simply based on the all-time highs here. But that's not necessarily significant resistance. These levels down here were very significant resistance, but obviously we've already broken out above these levels. So as I said, back down at these lower prices, once we break out above these levels, that basically increases the probability massively that we're going to go towards all-time highs. And so obviously right now we are sitting very, very close to all-time highs. And as for support, based on this chart right here, I would expect a lot of support in this area in between around 96,000 to 98,000 if we were to see a further pullback here. I'm not saying we will, it's just if we do, expect support around there. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, we also have a lot of support at around 102,000 approximately, which just over the last day, over the last matter of hours or so, we've just recently seen a bounce from very close to 102,000. And so obviously continue to expect a lot of support around there, and then only if we confirm candle closes on the daily time frame below 102,000, only in that situation I'd expect a drop potentially down towards 98. But for now, once again, keep expecting support at around 102k. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, obviously we have to be aware of the fact that right now we are possibly forming a new bearish divergence on the daily time frame. And now I'm saying possibly forming because we've not yet actually confirmed the bearish divergence, because in order to confirm this, we need to actually confirm the lower high in place in the daily Bitcoin RSI by seeing a bit of a rejection like this. But of course, the RSI by default is based off candle closes as the input data. And so that means that we still need to see at least one, but ideally a couple of candle closes in the price of Bitcoin on the daily time frame in order to actually cement the lower high in place in the daily Bitcoin RSI. So this is a possible warning signal that is flashing right now that is just forming but not confirmed. But if it does confirm in the coming days, in that situation, that would officially invalidate this previous bullish divergence, because obviously we cannot play out a bullish divergence at the same time as a bearish divergence on the same time frame. And so that would mean we'll most likely see a continued cool off, most likely a bit more of a pullback in the coming days or weeks for the price of Bitcoin if it confirms. Once again, I want to make it clear, at least for now, it is not currently confirmed. So overall, we're still currently looking more bullish than we are bearish, especially in the case of the trend here. At least for now, this is still very much a bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, just on the 4-hour time frame, we can clearly see that over the last 1 to 2 days here, first of all, we broke out towards the upside above this short-term line of resistance, which was sitting at just above 104,000. And then once we confirm that breakout, we continued towards the price target, which was sitting at roughly around 108,000, give or take. And obviously we reached just above 107,000, got very close to this target. And then of course we saw that pullback. And then basically the moment we confirmed candle closes back below approximately 104,000, that invalidated this short-term breakout, invalidated this price pattern, and invalidated the bullish price target. So for now, of course, this pattern is no more, but we're still finding support along this line of support right here, which is sitting at approximately 103,000. So expect some short-term support around there, and potentially also at around 104,000, a bit of support. But once again, the main level of support to pay attention to is at that 102k level, and then below that level, it'll be around 98,000. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously over the last couple of days, we wiped out a lot of liquidity that was sitting just above the price of Bitcoin. First of all, we had that liquidity at around 105k and also at close to 106k, and we wiped out both of those levels, as we could see here in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. But like I mentioned in my last video just yesterday, I said this is potentially some bad news for the price of Bitcoin, because it means we've already used up that liquidity. We've already wiped it out, and we don't really have a lot of liquidity just above the price of Bitcoin anymore. Now, of course, maybe in the next few days or in the next week, we could start to build more liquidity again above the price. But at least for now, in the immediate short term, we don't really have a lot of liquidity either side of the price of Bitcoin. So at least based on this chart right here, there's currently no clear direction. And so putting all of this information together, what is my Bitcoin trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin? And well, right now I'm still in that long position, that I've been sharing pretty much every day for weeks now on the channel. And of course, my stop loss is still sitting in profit. So even in the worst case scenario, I would obviously take profits from this position at that stop loss. And already I have taken a small amount of profits here and there out of the trade as we head further towards the upside. But you can see here over the last one day, just being very transparent here, over the last one day, I've made no new changes to this position. My realized profits still the same, unrealized profits roughly still the same as I said in my last video here. But if we actually confirm that bearish divergence on this daily time frame here, especially with a couple of candle closes confirming in the red, confirming the bearish divergence, honestly, in that situation, I'll start taking more profit out of this Bitcoin long position just to simply secure profits in the case of a possible pullback that could be coming if we actually confirm this pattern. But for now, considering we've not yet confirmed this signal, at least for now, I've not made any new changes to this trade. And so as I've been saying throughout this video and many times recently here on the channel, overall, I'm bullish on the trend for the price of Bitcoin. During the bullish trend, we can see little cool-offs here and there. So that's why I'm still long on the price of Bitcoin, but I'm just simply being aware of these possible warning signals to take a bit more profits at those levels. And so that is my exact trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin. And that's what I'm expecting in the shorter term and the longer term, and possible signals and warning signals I'm watching out for. And of course, if you want to take these trades for yourself to make a lot of easy money like what I'm doing right here, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses over here. Like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also claim a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNX as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses. Like for example, up to 35,000 in USDT, you can claim using that link just by trading crypto. But if you're not one of these larger traders, you can also claim some deposit bonuses here. Like for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus onto your BTNX account, but only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, the first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on this daily time frame, and right now the price of ETH obviously is continuing that rejection from this major area of resistance, the golden pocket, still sitting in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. So continue to expect a lot of resistance around there. And as for support, obviously we're currently running into this level of support, which is sitting at approximately around 2.4k. So for now, expect short-term support at 2400, 2.4k. But if we confirm candle closes below that level, in that situation, the next significant level of support towards the downside is sitting at around 2.1k. And of course, in terms of the trend, at least for now, despite seeing short-term pullbacks here and there, the trend is still currently bullish on the daily Ethereum price chart. But zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, of course, in the short term, we're still playing out this bearish divergence. And so obviously, as I've been saying every day over the last 4 to 5 days here since back up here, this bearish divergence means we're most likely going to see a lot of weakness in the short term for the price of Ethereum. So most likely a slight pullback, maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action here and there, but not so much strength, not so much bullish price action or bullish momentum, at least in the immediate short term here. Once again, zooming out, these pullbacks can happen during a larger bullish trend, but just for now, in the immediate short term, we're still in that pullback, still in that cool off, at least for now. But I do not expect this to continue to play out over weeks or months for the price of Ethereum, considering it's only on the 4-hour time frame. So maybe it plays out over another day or 2 days here, once again, just in the short term, but most likely by next week, this bearish divergence will be over, possibly even just in a couple of days from now. And so overall, in the immediate short term, continue to expect a bit of a weakness here, kind of like this. But overall, once again, I'm still bullish on the trend, but obviously we still have significant resistance at around 2.7k to 2.8k. So expect the price to struggle around there. But once we can finally see a breakout above 2.8k, in that situation, expect a quick move beyond 3,000, most likely up towards around 3.2k to 3.3k. And so those are the signals and the levels that I'm watching for the price of Ethereum. And if we're taking a look at Solana, Solana on the 3-day time frame. Obviously, right now, this massive bullish divergence is technically still active on the 3-day chart. So at least for now, we're still playing out this massive bullish relief, effectively a bullish trend, which is visible here on the daily time frame, forming higher lows and higher highs, which is basically what a bullish trend is, despite seeing short-term pullbacks during the bullish trend. And as for support, we're potentially starting to break below this level of support, which is sitting at approximately 166 to 168, right around there. We have had some short-term support, but if we confirm a candle close below that level, the next support I'll be watching is sitting at roughly around 154, give or take. And below that level, we also have significant support down here at these lows, sitting at approximately 144 to 146 if we were to see a further pullback here. But overall, I'm still bullish in terms of the price structure. We're still technically forming higher lows and higher highs on the daily time frame. And as for resistance, we still have significant resistance at around 190 to 200 and also at around $230. And if we're zooming further into the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, technically this short-term bearish divergence is still influencing the price of Solana, at least for now. And so once again, as I've been saying every day for over half a week now, since all the way back up here, we should be expecting a lot of weakness in the short term for the coming days for the price of Solana. So most likely a slight pullback coming next, or a bit of choppy sideways price action, kind of like this. So basically continue to expect this sort of price action at least over the next one day, maybe longer, maybe a few days, but just in the immediate short term, this is still impacting the price of Solana. But then perhaps in a week from now, once again, typically these bearish divergences just on the 4-hour time frame don't last weeks and weeks. Usually it's just a few days, maybe 1 week, give or take. And so perhaps next week, for example, it's very likely this bearish divergence would have already completed and we could potentially continue on with the bullish trend, because at least for now, once again, the trend is still currently bullish on the daily time frame, despite seeing pullbacks here and there. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, it's a very similar story for XRP. Obviously, we're continuing that significant rejection from this significant area of resistance, the golden pocket, still sitting in between around 255 to 262. So continue to expect a lot of resistance around there. And we're currently running into this retracement level, acting as support, sitting at just above $2.30. And so basically at around $2.34, give or take, which is where this level is sitting at, expect obviously support around there. But if we confirm candle closes, especially back below $2.30 on the daily time frame, in that situation, it's possible we could drop back down towards around 210 to 215, which is the next major area of support. But technically speaking, this somewhat shorter term trend on the daily time frame is still clearly bullish, at least for now. We're still forming higher lows and higher highs, which is effectively what a bullish trend is. But of course, once again, during a bullish trend, we can see pullbacks along the way towards the upside, just like how during this previous bearish trend, we can see the occasional bounce here and there along the way towards the downside. And if we're zooming further into the short term, obviously one of the reasons as to why we're seeing this pullback, along with the fact that we're rejecting from resistance, is due to the fact that we're still actively playing out a short-term bearish divergence here on the 3-hour time frame. Obviously, we already previously confirmed higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, meaning we're going to struggle in the short term, see a weakness coming next for the next few days. And obviously, ever since I've been saying that, since all the way back up here, of course, this has been perfectly playing out as I've been predicting, but at least for now, we've not yet confirmed any strong invalidation signals to invalidate this bearish divergence. And especially while a lot of these other crypto assets, like for example, Solana and Ethereum, are playing out these short-term bearish divergences, currently cooling off in the short term, this will also impact the price of XRP, at least for now. And so continue to expect the price to struggle at least over the next one day, maybe a couple of days, but then most likely by next week, most likely in honestly a few days from now, this short-term bearish divergence would have already completed, already fully played out. And so that is what I'm expecting in the immediate short term. And of course, the larger trend that is still currently active and the key levels to watch out for the price of XRP. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, of course, right now we're continuing that major rejection from this very strong resistance, still sitting at around 1750 to 1760. And as for support, we're still running into this golden pocket here, acting as significant support in between around 1490 to 1550. And so the price of Chainlink is possibly developing a bit of a price range here, because at least for now, this has been acting as strong support here, and of course, strong resistance at those levels that I just mentioned. mentioned. So once again, we could possibly chop around within this area for a little while, maybe a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. And overall, in the short term, expect similar price action for Chainlink as what I've been saying throughout this video for all of these other crypto assets. So obviously, if a lot of the crypto market is cooling off, struggling a little bit in the short term, it's likely we'll see something similar in the short term for the price of Chainlink. So that's ultimately what I expect here, once again, just for the next couple of days or so. But overall, technically, the trend or the price structure on the daily time frame is still currently bullish. At least for now, we're still forming higher lows and higher highs. And so that is the current situation for Chainlink. Those are my expectations in the somewhat shorter term and the mid to longer term, and the key levels to watch out for. And as always, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right now, to easily profit in the crypto market, make sure to check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take these trades just like this to make a lot of fast profits in the crypto market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.